All right. Okay, we'll do it live. Chariots. That's where I'm starting at tonight. Chariots. Welcome to the Bandit Radio Hour. This is Bandit with my co-host Merce. I got to get into this story because the universe is lining up way too many things. That again, this comes with the major warning that I might be right about things, and that's when things start looking scary. So let me go back in time. Today is March 22nd, 2022. Let me go back in time to what, Merce? 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks ago? Beginning of March. I start just binge watching some of my old nostalgic video game things. And I swear, this is getting somewhere in a minute. And I come across something some of y'all might know about. Cave Johnson from the Portal series, who's like the antagonist narrator. Long story short, I'm listening to something, and part of a code word that he has to keep saying is chariot. So me and my co-host and producer Merce, just a little inside joke we started doing 3 years ago to say, or 3 to 4 weeks ago, to say who it was the real us. We would say chariots. So just throw it into a sentence at random. So that was 3 to 4 weeks ago. And also, not after too long after we started doing that, playing this little stupid inside joke of chariots, I came across this hippie girl who gave me a neat bit of wisdom from her medium that I wasn't too sure of. But I elaborated on it in a really great long discussion that my producer is going to insert right here. I was on a date with a woman a couple weeks ago. And Allegedly. And now here's the thing about this lady. Very, very nice lady. Very nice woman. Really not a mean bone in her body. Just... You know what, like she's like a hippie, but an active hippie, like real, like extreme CrossFit, like does CrossFit and crazy diets and all this stuff, which I respect. God bless you. I don't do none of that. I work on a ranch and eat steak and potatoes. And that's a lie. I don't even eat a lot of steak. I eat hamburgers and potatoes. But anyways, while I'm sitting there talking to her and being a single man, so I got to like entertain a lot of the stuff that she says that I may or may not agree with, but I'm happy I did entertain this. Because she said, yeah, I was hanging out with a friend who was giving me some spiritual guidance because she's a medium, her friend is, and revealed to her that you get to choose your life before you die, or like before you're born. You get to choose what life you're born into, but you don't get to see how it plays out. And you have to, like, live it out. But then when you die, you come back. And I tell her, like, oh, that's fascinating. That's thought-provoking. Man, it really makes me look at things in a different light. In the back of my head, I'm like, what a crazy hippie chick. Like, whoa, that's like miles beyond me. So, anyways, we have a good time that night. We have drinks, good conversation. Call it a night. Head home. Get back to work. Do my normal thing that I've been doing throughout the entire winter, which is feeding bulls and heifers in the morning and working on things like either putting out hay or fixing fence or doing other stuff after that. And I got a lot of time to think. And what she says just keeps burrowing around in my mind. And I couldn't help but get this thought that's really analogous to video games. And now I'm a little bit of a nerd. I play a lot of games in my free time, like some people might watch TV or something like that. But I want to go over a couple of themes that I was really playing with. And the more I played with them, I'm driving this tractor all day, the more it kind of burns through. So, all right, hear me out. Let's say it's a given, which I don't necessarily fully believe. Let's say it's a given this chick is right. And you get to pick how you choose where you're born and when you're born. Like, how would that even work? How would one even conceptualize that? And then I thought, well, it'd probably be something similar to like a Call of Duty video game character select screen. Like, like you get to pick, like, I want to be born in this country, or but maybe it's not time. Maybe time's the one constant you don't get to pick. Like, you're just born at the now. It's just you pick where.
There's like a 12-year-old screaming in the background about something.
Yeah, of course. Well, yes, especially if you're playing with Latino or Canadian people or Americans. It's always. You know what? Europeans never have kids screaming in the background, I noticed. If it's a language I don't recognize at all.
They're in a different time zone. The kids are asleep.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them. Good for you, Euros. Get it in. But, all right. So here's my thought. I thought of a way how her theory could work. I'm not even saying I fully believe it. But in the same way, we log on to a game of Call of Duty on the internet and play as a character. That might be the same way that our souls link on to, not the same way, but just as an analogy, in the same manner our souls link on to our body. Like our souls are interfacing with our body and get to use our body, and like the goal of the game is to like stay alive, because pain hurts and that sucks, and we have a whole lot of instincts telling us not to die.
I'm on a good living streak right now.
Yeah, me too. So far, a lot of threats. None of them proved substantial, for the most part. I mean, got some dents. So, how this would work, you get to pick, like, your character, what you're born into, and you don't know the circumstances of what's going to come out. And you maybe get to pick other animals, maybe something close to reincarnation. But here's where it starts getting off the rails, like with that simple analogy. In Call of Duty, when you die, you get something called a kill cam, where you get to go spectate other people. And we always, no matter like what culture, I don't know, I got a really Disney-fied version of other cultures growing up. But like as far as I know, like the Easterners, like Chinese and Japanese, really respect their ancestors and believe their ancestors are watching them. I always grew up hearing some version of their looking down from heaven. It's like, oh, that sounds a lot like a kill cam. Like that's how you view someone like living out their life. Maybe while your soul's taking a break at the pregame lobby. Also, maybe like the goal of the game, and this is why I really am an optimist, and I got kids, and I try to do the ethical thing since I have them, and I'm trying to raise good humans. Maybe like the goal of the game, like Call of Duty. What if this world, this reality, is a game?
I just hope it wasn't designed by the Battlefield makers.
No, God. Well, there'd be a lot more glitches, which Donald Trump was president, and Joe Biden was. So whichever side you're on, take your pick. There's a glitch in there somewhere. But they not only that. Where was I going with that? There was kill cams. There was. Oh, what if like these deities, like Jesus or Buddha or fill in the blank, like when their soul came and inhabited whatever body, you have like some precursor information. And you're just going like, hey, guys, this is the name of the game. You got to like, despite this world being so terrible and awful and full of like pain and misery, it's just a game. And the goal of the game is spread as much joy and happiness as you can, in spite of the wickedness of the world. That's why, like, I'm not Amish or nothing, but like, if that is the game, the Amish are kicking ass. Like, they got the high score. They said, no, we're not going to take all this pleasurable electronics of this life, and we're just, I don't know, maybe Amish are pricks. I don't know a lot of them, but the ones I've met are pretty much like, we'll help you if you need it. And we are going to have to get into that next time. So as y'all could hear from that, yeah, it's pretty wild. And we recorded that a week ago, 22 minus 7, that was on the 15th. And it was just a fun, I love mental floss. I love just playing with stuff back and forth in my head. Doesn't matter if I believe it or not. It's just fun to entertain. So I've really been entertaining that with a bunch of things. Like I even told my producer that I even put a little spin on it. What was that, Merce? A week ago? I came up with a little addition to it with dreams.
It was about the day after we recorded.
Day after we recorded, I came up with an addition of dreams. So, y'all heard all that. It'd be like a video game lobby, yada, yada, yada. Well, what if, little addition, when you dream, so science cannot explain why we dream and why like just about every living thing that's somewhat complicated dreams, or not just dreams. My bad, take that back. Sleeps. Why we sleep, and it just kind of makes common sense to us on the surface. Oh, you got to recharge your batteries. Oh, you gotta, your body, your brain has to sift through things, and we just take all of that as like a given, and no one really thinks much deeper into it. Well, pinning off my little hippie chick pick your life reincarnation fun theory, what if when we sleep, the same way you get off of YouTube or quit watching your phone or quit playing a video game, that's your soul taking a break from this reality to go do something we can't remember when we wake up, or we just remember bits of it we can't even comprehend through dreams. So that's, a little bit of other tweaky details like that. Like maybe there's different layers to it, or there could be something. But that was my theory, and that was our fun little inside joke. And you can check the date the trailer came out. I know it was recommended to me in a YouTube feed. Merce, was it Monday night?
It might have been because I don't think I saw it to the next. Yeah, because it was some morning I woke up to just a frantic message when you kept yelling Chariots.
Chariots? And that I was scared. Because a movie is coming out starring John Malkovich. I discovered this 4 days ago. After I pre-recorded that conversation you just listened to and told Merce my little addendum about dreams. And I beg of you now, if you haven't heard of this trailer like I hadn't, go watch it. Pause this, come back. But if you didn't do that, like I never do when people tell me to do those things, what it seems to be about is exactly what I just said. Like it stars John Malkovich and some other people, and something about reincarnation, and there's a glitch in the system or something goes wrong, and something about when you dream or when you sleep, you kind of access this middle zone of reincarnation. And here's the kicker. The name of the movie, the name of this like thing that I swear had a listening device and on my recording studio of a podcast we hadn't even invented yet. Merce, what is it?
Chariot.
Chariots. Not chariots, chariots. Not chariots. Chariot. So I think y'all see why the Lord has pushed me in the direction to make a podcast and why all y'all should convert to. I'm not. We're going to bleep that part out. Keep this going. That's why y'all can all convert to banditism. It's going to be the new up-and-coming thing where I just pull random theories out of my ass that have no scientific backing. It's just good, emotional, strong support with some conundrums from his head. And reality...
You have to cut that too because you said your full name again.
Dang it. We'll beep that. Don't even cut it. Don't even cut it. Beep it. And so it'll be the Bandit mythology, banditism, which comes from the bandit's mind upstairs.
Maybe do a Twitter poll on a better name.
We'll find something. We'll find something. It's in the cards.
Chariots.
And I collect thoughts. I spew them out with some fun little banditized theory twist on them, and reality seems to hear me and think it's quite funny and make it unfold. So, who knows? Maybe something crazy could happen, like all the Democrats start funding Nazis in a foreign war or something like that. But who knows? It's anything can go.
Crazier things have happened.
Crazier things have happened. All right, so hang on. So Merce, how am I wrong about this? I need a not crazy person's.
I can't prove that you're wrong, but I also can't prove that you're right. And the whole timing of the Chariot trailer is more terrifying than anything to me.
Everybody go watch that. Just go watch it. Go check it out after this podcast, after you're done listening to the Bandit Radio Hour. And getting into a little bit of current events, clipping from that evergreen tree that keeps growing. It's everything going on in Ukraine. It's like half of the things that inspired me to do this podcast because I walk by a TV in my household I don't have control of a lot of the time, and I hear a lot of the propaganda coming through. And goodness gracious, they act like this war started in March, 3rd, 4th, whatever, whenever Russia invaded Ukraine. And here's my little asterisk note of warning or fourth thing or whatever. I don't think Putin invading a country is like a good thing. Like, I don't like it. To me, this is a giant gang war that tons of innocent people are caught up in the middle of the worst kinds of drive-bys you can imagine. And my heart goes out to those people. But they act like this war started 3 weeks ago, when really this thing started, and I'm sure you've heard a little bit of these points here and there if you're in any kind of the podcast sphere or the YouTube sphere or anything on the alternate media. But good Lord, if you listen to the mainstream media, it started 3 weeks ago, and the gist I have gotten, and please, if you only watch or read the corporate press, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gist of what I get is that Putin is either going crazy or senile or has a vision of a triumphant return of something like the USSR or the Russian Empire before that. He has his eyes set on glory, and he's a madman, much akin to Hitler. Like, we'll go over those comparisons here in a little bit. And he invaded Ukraine because he's bloodthirsty and wants to extend his power. Which, if you look at the events and everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks, yeah, I could see if that started right then, how you could get that opinion. But you gotta realize, this goes all the way back to like the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989 or 1990, and George H. Bush signing the... God, I can't remember the name of the agreements. Do you remember, Merce, off the top of your head?
No, we can add it.
We will. We'll put it in the show notes. Can't remember the exact name of the agreements. But George Bush signed and promised NATO will not move one line to the east, or one inch to the east. Since then, not only has that line greatly leaped by countries that has tons of funding going into it by NATO, which is spearheaded by the United States military. The story of how some of these countries joined. Merce, have you ever heard of a country called Yugoslavia?
Yes.
All right. So have you ever heard about what happened in 99?
Not offhand.
All right. So the story was the United States and NATO sent a courteous invitation to the country of Yugoslavia, which, like, you know how, like, we got the two parties here, but in other countries they got, like, a bunch of different parties.
Right.
That was Yugoslavia, a bunch of different parties. And we extended an invitation to their government that's made up of a lot of different parties. Like, hey, why don't y'all join NATO? And some of the parties were like, yeah, great idea. We'll get a bunch of military funding, we'll get better security, yada, yada, yada. A majority of the other parties said, there's something about the CIA we don't trust. There's something about this military industrial power we're not too fond of. So, like, the majority of them voted in 99, we don't want to join NATO. And the United States and NATO said, we understand. Hey, United Nations, if it's cool with you, we're going to start bombing Yugoslavia to encourage them to join NATO. And all this is true. You can, I'm getting to the grand masterpiece in a minute, but you can look this all up. United Nations told them, as a strong-willed, surefire organization that they are, that we will not support you bombing Yugoslavia. And NATO said, all right, hold my beer. And proceeded to bomb civilians, city infrastructure, all throughout 99. I mean, there's like, multiple massacres that happened there. But the good news was the next year, by 2000, they had joined NATO. So everything worked out for the country of Yugoslavia, and they're under protection of the people that used to bomb the living hell out of them. So that's one little example of us getting countries to join NATO. Now, have we done that to every country? God, no. I don't think so. Pretty sure we haven't. But I told you that story of Yugoslavia to tell you the this little bit that this redneck on a tractor knows about Ukraine, just because I do a little bit of digging. All right, first of all, if you watch some of the corporate media, you might have caught on, you might have not, might not. Back in 2014, we got John McCain and Lindsey Graham shared this video with Merce of them visiting the Ukraine to like their top generals. If I'm being honest, I don't know if it's their top generals, but it is. It's the generals in the nation that they're using to meet United States senators. So I'm thinking they got some swag to them.
It's not your first lieutenants.
No, it's not your potato pickers infantry that are doing that. So like John McCain, but he's still alive. It's 2014, and Lindsey Graham are telling them how they're going back to Washington to advocate to the rest of Washington to give arms and aid to the Ukrainian forces in order to launch an offensive, to finally launch an offensive war against Russia. So that's like point number one right there. Number two is, all right, I really like, we need to invent a new word besides Nazi and fascist, because those words have just been like slammed into the anyone who thinks the grass is an off color of green is now a Nazi. But I'm sure you've heard some reports of like this Nazi brigade or whatever. It's not all Ukrainian like soldiers. It's one particular brigade, and I got this from the Jimmy Dore show. We will have this link in the notes. More than welcome to check it out. How these guys got so high up in the Ukrainian army was because they started, I believe it was 2013, started shelling Ukrainian cities with NATO-supplied ammunition. So the Nazi Ukrainians were shelling Ukrainian cities, not Russian. They're shelling the parts of the Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, which is most heavily has a Russian influence and dialogue. It'd almost be like if you went down to if you went to southwestern Texas and decided to shooting every Latin Texan there was, which you're going to have a lot of pissed off cholos and cowboys and just some asshats that are going to beat the hell out of you and shoot you dead, because it's Texas. God bless the place. So in current events, we're crossing our fingers. Maybe World War III won't happen. Maybe our world leaders are too stupid to get into it.
We might not even know if it's already happened.
It might have been
1939 Germany.
Yes.
It started way before we knew it happened.
There is some scary stuff on the horizon. But if there's something that actually... Oh, and hang on. One thing I wanted to... I'm about to get out of here. It's getting late at night. I finished my very gay seltzer water. There's no other word for it. The one thing that really drives me crazy is all the comparisons I've heard, and I didn't sum this up in my corporate summary of Vladimir Putin, is, have you heard he's the next Hitler? He's the next Hitler. He's the next Hitler. It's everything like I've heard that from Democrats, from a lot of Republicans, from even some independents, and like. Here's my thing. The reason I've heard they're calling him Hitler is because, like, he's invading a country and that's what Hitler did. And it's like, that's bad. And listen, I love my country, the United States of America. And it's because I love my country, I fear and hate the government that runs it. And don't get me wrong, it's that one country, no, two, because he invaded Georgia as well. So like a couple of years ago. So let's give the devil his due. Dude's invaded two countries. That's bad. Invading one country's bad. Invading a neighborhood is bad. Merce, how many countries has the United States invaded in like the past 20 years?
Most of them?
Yes, that's the right answer. Most of them. And I mean, you go back to 94, and really, Putin, he actually says, well, I mean, hang on, let me reel that back. Anybody can say anything, but we're talking about, let's talk about some actions. most of the trade deals that Russians have made as far as fertilizer, as far as minerals, and don't get me wrong, I know they're probably lining a lot of oligarchs' pockets, but good God, as a rancher in this country, you know how high fertilizer was getting before any of this happened? Before the inflation started cranking up, before this war, and Russia is one of our primary sources of fertilizer. And, like, yes, given, it'd be much better if fertilizer was harvested in this country and we were all self-sufficient. Yeah, but meantime, we're getting the cheapest stuff from Russia. So as a guy that produces the food, I'd like to get cheaper stuff to produce the food so I can keep y'all's hamburgers and steaks and everything cheaper and still make money because we're still getting our profit incentive and everybody in the middle. So, is Putin doing... I heard somebody put it like this. Is what Putin doing ethical? Like, no, it's not ethical to invade. Is it kind of practical and rational? If you've had an empire called NATO that was only supposed to go up against the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union called it quits and went home, and then NATO was like, oh, we're just going to keep marching east all the way up to your doorstep. Like, let me just put this, in the words of the great Ron Paul, just put the shoe on the other foot. Let's just put this scenario. What if China, good old red Winnie the Pooh loving China, like, made a treaty with us 40 years ago that they were going to stop all the Super Monroe Doctrine. We're not doing nothing in the Western Hemisphere. That's all America stuff. We're out of it. We don't want nothing to do with it. And then all of a sudden they started putting military bases, not even close, like down like Argentina and Chile, and a lot of those countries started flipping like real Chinese pro-communist, and then we started finding out that China was pumping tons of money and supplies into those countries. And now they were talking, and that's crawled all the way up, now they're talking about flipping Mexico to China friendly. Now, does that give like all the Americans the right to invade Mexico and start shooting every Chinese-loving Mexican we see? No, that kind of sounds like a funny cartoon. But like, no, that'd be like terrible in real life. So you could see from the Russian standpoint, just NATO crawling up to their doorstep. If you've grown up in a rural environment, you know any redneck with a gun and 20 acres that just wants people to leave them alone. Putin's had people coasting up to his property, and he finally whipped out the 12 gauge called ICBMs and said, get the hell off of my property and all of my neighbors.
He's no longer Putin up with it.
No, he is not, and that is our pun of the evening. That's not a segment we're going to do. That's just the pun of the evening. But, guys, the one thing... I think I've said this like 3 times. But if there's something I can tell you after studying the corporate press, even when you think they're starting to do good, they'll only show you 1% of the truth and lie their asses off about the other 99%. But it's 11:05. I've been chatting into a box for an hour. That's going to do it for the Bandit and merch tonight. I hope you enjoyed our first episode. I hope you tune in, subscribe, download all your RSS feed, and you can follow us at Twitter at Bandit Radio Hour. Pop in there for spicy, ranchy takes and some neat little opinions. Y'all have a good evening.